Hello, everyone, and welcome to It's Alive, How to Bring a Whole School STEAM Model to Life. My name is Jess Hutchinson. I'm the principal at Crossroads Intermediate School here in Columbia, South Carolina, and we are looking forward to spending some time talking to you guys today about a program that we have in place here. Presenting with me today is Mrs. Tara Seyfried. She is the assistant principal for instruction here at Crossroads.
Hello, everybody.
And Ms. Seyfried and I are gonna work through some information today to share with you guys. And both of us were heavily involved in getting this program going, so hopefully you'll find this information useful to you. So we're going to hit on a few things today. One, of course, we're going to talk about the process that we went through in introducing this program to our staff and to our students and to our community. And we're going to also talk about how we did so with limited to no funding. So we're going to talk a little bit about our journey. We'll talk through this, our program, some different challenges that we faced, some that we thought may happen and some that were completely unforeseen, and then also some successes. And then we'll talk a little bit about where we would go moving forward. So as we progress through here, first thing we'll share with you guys is our little logo that we have for our program, and I'll point out to you from the start that we are not a magnet school. We do not function as a magnet school. We do not receive magnet funding, but we do have a STEAM-based instructional model in place in our school. I suppose we would be considered a theme school. We are I guess also a choice school in our school district. Students can choose to come here whether they are within our zone or not. And if you look at our theme, at our symbol, we've got two colors involved here, and that's significant to us. We've got silver and black, which are the colors of our school, and there's a reason behind that, because Crossroads, we feed into both the Irmo High School zone and also the Dutch Fork High School zone, and so we pulled a color from each of those schools and incorporated those into our school colors and also our STEAM theme. And we've got Crossroads Intermediate School kind of wrapping around that STEAM instructional model. Here's a picture of the front of our school. We are as we said earlier, we are Crossroads Intermediate School, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. We are an all sixth grade school. We have about 800 sixth graders. We do use the teaming model, so our students are arranged into teams. We have 10 teams of about 80 kids each. We think that smaller learning community is beneficial to students at this age. And each team is comprised of the four core content teachers. So we have a math, ELA, science, and social studies teacher on each team. And and those kids they're also located in the same area of the building, so our students are able to kind of have a place within the building where they live most of the day. Then we also have a related arts department, and our students would go out to related arts. Our four core content areas, they do meet every single day, so we have 5 70-minute blocks per day, and students would attend all four core content classes. And then our exploratory classes or our related arts classes are on an A day, B day rotation, and they also meet for 70 minutes. This is our fantastic A team at one of our recruitment events, and these folks have put a lot of time here in helping get this program up and running. We wanted to give them some kudos with Miss Wanda Pearson and Miss Anita Vogel-Long. And there's Miss Seyfried and myself, and you can see how excited we are to be at our recruiting event there, helping folks find a new home at Crossroads Intermediate School. And this is just kind of giving you some general information about, again, about where we're located. We're in the center of the state here in Columbia, and we serve the Chapin, our school district, which is School District 5 of Lexington and Richland counties, because we are located in both counties. We serve the Ballantyne area, the Irmo area, and the Chapin area. This is the famous thinking bench, and this is an area where lots of ideas came to to us about how we should proceed with this program. Spent a lot of time there thinking and talking about how to progress as we developed. It's a popular. You can't see the rest of the picture there, but there's a lot of traffic that takes place right there in our school building, so it gave us a chance to speak to a lot of people, students and adults, as they came through that area. So what we want to do to kind of set things up is, we're not going to air the video, but I just want to tell you a little bit about it. There's a popular video that you may have seen out on YouTube by a fellow named Maurice Cheeks. He's also known as Mo Cheeks, and he is a coach in the NBA. I believe he's an assistant now, but he has been a head coach at several teams, and he also played in the NBA for the 76ers. And there's a video out there of when he was a coach with the Portland Trail Blazers, and there was a playoff game that they were involved in, and a young lady stepped out onto the court to sing the national anthem, and she got halfway through the national anthem and she froze up and was not able to continue singing. And without skipping a beat, Maurice Cheeks walked out onto the court and stood by her side and kind of wrapped his arm around her and helped take hold of the mic and got her singing again and helped her complete singing the national anthem as she was off and running once he kind of gave her that jump start. And it's a very, very powerful video if you haven't seen it. If you haven't, take a moment to look that up sometime in the next few days. You'll see what I mean. But the reason that we're including that in this presentation is Crossroads we've been pretty successful over the years. Our student scores have been very nice, and they continue to be. We were really functioning well as an all sixth grade school. That was a specialty of ours that we really focused on. We spent some time as well with a pretty large single gender program. We had some pretty great things going on, but some things began to change in our community as far as the school options that became available. Much more choice became available in our district. Some magnet programs were developed. Another sixth grade program was created at Irma Middle School. They have a fantastic option over there for sixth graders. And so we just began to see things changing as far as what the options were for students. And so we related to this video just a little bit because, we were trucking along, doing great, and then all of a sudden we kind of found ourselves with a little hiccup as far as, where do we go next? And how do we fit into, the list of options that folks might have in this area when it comes to where they want their child to attend school. And so we felt the need to do something about that and to make sure that we had relevant and important programs available that would be attractive to our young learners and to the families in our community. So we kind of did like Maurice Cheeks and ran out on the court and started making some pretty big and some pretty bold decisions, taking a lot of people out of their comfort zones and making some shifts in how we create our teams and what we ask people to do in the classroom. And that's what we're going to be kind of talking about here as we go forward. So what you see now is a slide that kind of outlines our journey to STEAM and the fact that our name is Crossroads is important to us because it really is a time in a child's life when they start selecting friends, they start selecting what direction they want to go in academically, what their personal interests are, and it's a critical time. So we try to keep a close eye out on what we offer our kids and how we help guide them and prepare them for success as they go into the 7th and 8th grade and then on into high school and beyond. So we decided to go with offering a STEAM option here at Crossroads, and initially our thought was we would just have a small program within our school. And so as you can see a few bullets down there, we started in 2014, 2015. We had a pilot year and we had one team. And we went to that one team, and at that time we were not 4-member teams, we were 6-member teams, and we had like science and social studies were every other day. We were just doing things differently than we do now. And so we went to that one team. We talked to them about interest in starting up a STEAM program, and gave them a year working with them to develop some ideas, to test out different strategies, different activities, different approaches to learning in their classrooms. And the idea really blossomed within our building and began to get lots of interest from other teachers saying, hey, listen, this is something we'd like to be interested in as well. We decided that we would move to offering several teams the next year, and so we allowed members of the community we ran a lottery to accept kids into, I believe it was going to be 4 teams when we were going to do that. Well, the interest was overwhelming. We had, I think we were prepared to take a little over 300 students, and we had over 500 that submitted. And so we did follow through with the lottery, which we had our PTO representatives there with us when we did that to make sure that everything was, that we had that process viewed by members from outside of our school. And we sent out information to parents, letting them know whether their child's name had been chosen or not. And lots of disappointed folks who came back to us saying, wow, we really, really wanted to be part of this program. So we listened to them, and we went back to our teachers, and we talked about it, and we had pretty much our whole staff saying, you know what, let's go for this, and let's not prolong this, let's jump into it. So what you see there is the next bullet was not our original plan, but it became our plan pretty quickly. So that last school year, which would have been 15-16, we went to 4 full implementation teams, and then we had 6 pilot teams. Pilot teams had a little more discretion on what they would do and what they would try out. Because we had advertised our program as full implementations, we had some guaranteed experiences that we said would take place, and we wanted to make sure that that happened. So we did that last year, and then this year, 16-17, we've gone to an all-school model, basically meaning that every student that attends Crossroads will participate in our STEAM program. So we have here what we call the elevator speech, and we shared this with all of our faculty. We shared it with our district folks. We shared it with the community. And we wanted our teachers to have something handy so that when they were out at the ballpark or standing in line at the store and they heard somebody talking about Crossroads, they would have a couple of talking points that they could jump to real quick that would be pretty easy to remember and pretty easy to jump to. So we have, this is the short version of the elevator speech. This is the 3-floor version. We have a 3-floor and a 12-floor version. We're sharing the 3-floor version with you guys here. Basically letting people know that these are our specialties here. When kids come here for the Crossroads experience, we want them to know that we're going to specialize in that 6th grade learner, kind of what makes that 6th grader tick and helps them be successful. We're going to provide a STEAM-based instructional model, which we do keep referring to, and we're going to delve much deeper into what that means to us. We talk to them about the fact that it's a big deal for us here for our students to see connections between their content areas, between math and ELA, or between science and social studies. A big increase in the use of technology in our building, where teachers are truly using technology every single day as a learning tool. That we're going to have these supportive small learning communities for our students, and that we're going to be prepared to get these kids ready for the future, for being both college and career ready. All right, so I've talked enough. I'm going to turn things over to Mrs. Seyfried, and she is going to talk to you a little bit more about our actual STEAM program. Ms. Seyfried?
Okay. Let me go in here. Oh.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so a little bit about our STEAM program. The thing, too, that I really want to make clear to begin with is we don't have a whole new set of curriculum that we're teaching. It really is just our way of thinking and how we teach. We've just gotten creative with our state standards. We still have to adhere to those and what we need to teach at the 6th grade level. We still need to make sure that we are supporting all of the District 5 initiatives that are in place each year. It's just getting creative with how we do that within our program. It's been a slow and steady progress. You can't say that we did that the very first year without flaw, and that each year we grow with it, and we see that teachers are getting more and more creative and thinking even further outside of the box as they go through. They're getting braver, I think, with it. At first, we were trying to define ourselves and how we wanted to address the things that you see on the screen in terms of building community or the creativity, the exposure to the arts, or how do you address real-world problems with the sixth grader and it be, appropriate for their age level. And so I think we started off with some real baby steps, and it may have not looked completely perfect to our teachers, but we've got a pretty big faculty of perfectionists here, and so I think that's why they wanted to jump on it so quickly as a whole school is, well, if we're going to do it, we want to do it right to begin with. So they're very dedicated to how they're approaching these things, so that you get a broader perspective. I mean, sixth graders have a hard time thinking outside of their own little world. So it's quite a challenge to think in terms of how you present real world problems to that age group. But the teachers are working with this real well on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. So when you look at this screen and you see we talk about, and we've got some highlighted key terms, and we try to use these anytime we're talking about our STEAM program, like the 21st century learner and the 4 C's. And the 4 C's just aren't for our students. Our teachers very much are thinking creatively and communicating with one another with a high level of collaboration and a high level of creative thinking or critical thinking. Our teachers don't go in their classrooms and shut their doors and do their own thing. We see them constantly, whether it's through planned meetings and we have the way our schedule works, our teachers have common planning that they're able to get together with one another and bounce ideas off of each other and really spend some time researching and creating what they want to do with these particular lessons that they're teaching for the kids. And it's important to remember, if you're thinking about this kind of program, it would wear your teachers out to think that they could do this solo. They really need to be able to work well with one another and take each other's ideas and build and expand upon them, and it really snowballs into some really cool stuff that happens in the classroom. But as far as thinking of these things in terms of the students, we still have honors and college prep courses based on how the kids are recommended for the courses coming into 6th grade. So not only do they have to think in terms of how do I want to put the 4 C's and how do I want to address real world problems with these students, but I also want to address them at the appropriate level for these kids. So you'll see as we move further through and really get specific with some of our examples, there's so many different things that have to be considered as they're planning these different lessons. So you might ask why we chose STEAM and not STEM. And as Mr. Hutchinson mentioned earlier, we feed into two different sets of schools with our Irmo and Dutch Fork. And going the Dutch Fork route, you have more of a STEAM and a STEM model. They have a STEM program in their high school, and then with Irmo, it's more of an arts program that travels through their middle and high school. And of course, we have with Spring Hill High School as a magnet school that has all kinds of different options over there. So we felt like this was a good way to expose students coming in from 10 different elementary schools into our school that have different themes. We could kind of take where they had been, and then we could take where they're going, and we mix it all up with our STEAM model that we have here. We also had to consider, well, what do we already have here that we can play up on? We had some strengths already, so we weren't starting from scratch. We want to use what our assets were to begin with, and we have a really large music program here. I'd say, two-thirds maybe of our kids are involved in either band, strings, or orchestra. So that led us to think also in terms of including that A. So you'll see here that as we infuse that art into the STEM, that's where I was referring to, we do have, you have to think about it. The arts doesn't mean that we have an art class where they're doing what you typically think of when you think of art. And it doesn't just have to be music either. We have a lot of other artistic kinds of things. And if you went out there and just do the good old-fashioned Google of what it means to be STEAM, there's a lot of different directions and different definitions that places can take. So really, I think you have that liberty of defining, in some ways, how you want it to be. So we really think about it, too, in terms of we have with clubs the ideas behind some drama and social studies. You can take a content-related course, and you can talk about architectural history and the art and structure behind that. So it really lends itself for being able to infuse a lot of different areas of the arts into the math and the engineering and the science that and technology you would typically think of there. And we would not be doing our part if we didn't share some of the cool stuff that you would see in the hallways here at our school. And you can see in this one particular, this is an art museum that this particular team has created over the course of the school year. Social studies classes begin with early man, and they have some cave drawings, and they've gone through studying Greece and medieval times and things like that. So they're keeping these things up in the hallways all through the course of the school year, so that by the end of the year we have quite an art museum going on in the hallway. Just some examples of things that you can see there. I'm sure that the profile of the South Carolina graduate, is something that everybody that's watching today is familiar with. I hope so. And you can see that already through just a little bit that we've already been talking, talking about world-class knowledge and the world-class skills and characteristics. We really are tying these things into that STEAM model and our thinking process through all the different things that we're able to offer our students. And that doesn't have to be just in a class for grades. We, several of the things that we'll be able to describe through this webinar will show you ways that we are able to connect with the kids in a non-grading format, just really giving them some experiences to work collaboratively together and to be able to, you see your kids in a different way when something's not necessarily tied to grades. And what when we talk with community members, we hear, we want students coming out of school not just with content knowledge. We want them to be able to work well with others. We want them to have those skills to be able to think creatively and whatnot. And so the things that we're able to offer to our students here help create that well-rounded individual, and not just in content-related ways. And like I said before, it doesn't go to say that all of this has been easy, and it's been a slow process in some ways, and we've had some I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, some coulda, shoulda, and wouldas as we moved along. So, of course, funding is always going to be an issue. I wish we had a bottomless pit of money that we could just pull from to do anything and everything that we wanted. And of course, we do have an incredible faculty that wants to do things and do things well, but it's realistic to say that sometimes there's resistance to change. We were comfortable and we were doing well with it, and sometimes people are willing to think outside of the box more quickly than others, so that the buy-in versus ownership sometimes, or that we're doing okay. Why do we need to change things? And of course, right now I think we have so many things on educator plates that there's that fear of the time that it's going to take to do extra things. But I think if you take the time to put some thought into your planning ahead of time, do some front loading of ideas with your faculty, and really involving faculty in some of the decision making, you'll see some of the things that are listed there on the screen. We had a power team that we pulled teachers from each of our teams and had them helping us make some decisions, so that it wasn't just we're handing to the faculty, here's how things are going to be. It was, what do you want to see come out of this as well? They see things a little differently sometimes than we do, and so it's good to have feedback from everybody, and we've learned a lot from each other, and it gives everybody that sense of ownership that they had a part to play in the planning. And of course, we always have our plans, number 1, number 2, number 10. You keep going back to the drawing board. If things don't work the way you want them, you just keep trying until you find that one that works well for your whole faculty.
All right, thank you, Ms. Seifert. And on this slide as well, let me mention a learning experience for us too. If you guys are considering, if you're considering starting a program within your building and you plan to start small like we did, one thing we did learn was we went to a particular team. We were pretty strategic in the team that we went to because we knew that they were already using tons of technology in their classroom. They were very open-minded to change and just cutting edge with the things that they were doing already. So it made a lot of sense to us to approach them initially to say, would you guys be the ones to pilot this team? And if I'm being honest with you, then I would tell you that there were some folks who maybe had a little bit of resentment for that because they felt like they had some really great things going on in their class as well, which they did. So I would just caution you to think through how you introduce it. And you may have to go to an individual team, but just kind of know on the front end that there may be some folks who question why you didn't approach their team or them individually, and just kind of be prepared with some answers for that. Which we had some great answers, I think, but I didn't expect as much as I got from folks coming saying, hey, I really wish that I could be part of that, and you didn't give me a chance to do that. So keep that in mind if you're looking at putting something into place as well. And let's see, there was something else here I was going to bring to you guys as well. We've got community interest listed in here. Obviously, it's a hot topic in the world right now. When you start talking about STEM programs and STEAM programs, that kind of thing, community jumps on it. So that was not a difficult sell, to be honest with you. We had, SI, our School Improvement Council folks, and just community members that we spoke to who were all over this. And I think you'll find parents just jump right in, and it really creates some opportunities for them to come help at this level now that their kids aren't in elementary school. So let's talk about that just a little bit. So we go to the next slide here, our STEAM time slide. Ms. Seyfert mentioned profile of the South Carolina graduate, and we talk so much these days about our kids being prepared for what's to come, and we just feel like this program, it incorporates a lot of 21st century learning skills as we have listed here, and hitting on those 4 C's. We've had a chance to attend some seminars or some conferences that either focused on creating magnet programs or theme schools or just cutting edge programs that were being put into place, and we kept hearing about the 4 C's: the communication, the collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. So this is a big thing for us that we try to push. We try to incorporate this language into our everyday verbiage around Crossroads so that our teachers are using these words with our kids, and that hopefully they're doing some thinking about what it is that they're actually learning here. So we have put into place a concept called STEAM Fridays. So every Friday in particular is designated as a STEAM day, and as was mentioned earlier, we alternate between having morning meetings or STEAM clubs, depending on, and we just rotate between those between Fridays. And so with our morning meetings, this is kind of sort of the town hall concept, only we're really focusing on bringing in STEM or STEAM type related topics. And we've had design challenges that take place here, and this would be a whole team activity where all 80 members of the team and the 4 teachers do this together. And we have designated space around the building that our teams rotate through because you need large spaces for this to happen, and we've had to get kind of creative with that. So as you look at your facility, you might want to think, how could we, even if you have to find a hallway somewhere well, this one hallway is where we have this particular activity, or this corner of the cafeteria, or whatnot. And there's some logistical challenge to that, but certainly something that can be overcome. But design challenges take place here. This is a great time for that parents like to come in. We've had parents who, we had a parent who works for the FBI. He's a polygrapher. He came in and I actually hooked up some of the teachers to his polygraph machine and asked them some questions, which I thought was pretty brave of those teachers. But he was pretty nice with the questions that he asked. But that was super highly engaging and interesting to the kids. Sometimes these morning meetings will be in line with what our with what they're learning at the time. We also built in our related arts folks. We've got them we've asked them to each offer at least one morning meeting session, and there's a catalog available for our teachers that they can go and see, okay, let's see, Miss Murray offers this particular music morning meeting that she can be called in for. I'm also listed in there myself. I've got a couple of things that I will do, and I did that intentionally so that we can see that I'm certainly not asking them to do something that I wouldn't do myself. Some other examples of some of our programs that we had in place, we had a team take on Operation Shoebox. We've had where our folks put together around the holidays gift boxes to be mailed around the world, and kind of gives them an idea of how they can have an impact outside of the walls of Crossroads and outside of the boundaries of their community. Carolina Wildlife has come in and brought live animals in. We've had our local library come in. There's a photo here. This was done around Halloween, where she comes in and tells some ghost stories and things of that nature. A local inventor has come in and shared his story. And that was a great one, because they were able to see that this was just a guy who was out working on the job site and had some thoughts and put them into action, and now he's invented a product that's become profitable for him. Whether it's we've got a team who's worked using a recycling theme, and they're working using grocery bags to make mats for the homeless. We had a local beekeeper who came in, and that was a super interesting one, and actually ended up growing into us having our own hive here on campus. So just all kinds of great things happening during morning meetings. And again, it's an easy time to get parents to come in and feel involved and be in the building, because we know as they get into their the middle school years, they don't feel necessarily as connected as much, and they may have something really great to offer. The other option that we have are our on STEAM Fridays are our clubs, and this has just really been an awesome thing. I mean, we've got our teachers that are sharing certain things that they're interested in. The kids participate in 2 clubs per year. They do one first semester and one second semester. They sign up electronically. Ms. Seyfert oversees that, and she creates a document that shows up in the students' inbox, because all of our students here do have Chromebooks, which helps with the technology initiative. And so they go to their school Gmail account, and they have a document there where they're able to sign up for their clubs. And just ranges, as you can see here, from Rubik's Cube to lightweight lifting. Here's another list of just some highly engaging options. And it's a fluid list too. I mean, we find some that work and some that don't work. Some years one option, last year an option that we had might not have been as popular this year, so we shift to something else. We've had an opportunity to hear Sir Ken Robinson speak before, and he spent a decent amount of time, as one of his things, of course, is talking about people being able to connect to their creativity in their learning. And that we just feel like this is an area that allows our children to find what it is that they're good at, and how they have ways to be creative. And it doesn't just have to be the fact that I can sing really well, or I dance, or play the trumpet. You may have strengths and creativity in creating a newspaper, or teaching somebody a new card trick, or something to that effect.
I think it's important to understand too that these do happen during the school day. Sometimes clubs are an after school, but we felt it was very important that every single student in the building have the opportunity to participate in these clubs. So this is part. It does take away from a little bit of the instruction time on those opposing Fridays to have these morning meetings or club schedules. But we think that the importance of those opportunities are provided through the morning meetings and clubs. So I just wanted to make sure that point was made, that every single student in the building, regardless of what their transportation is in the afternoon, this happens during the school day for them.
That's a great point, because what I failed to mention earlier when I was introducing our school, we do serve a pretty diverse population. Our poverty rate is around 45%. In our area, we have students who live in very expensive houses on the lake, and we have students who live in subsidized housing. So we've got quite a range of families that we work with and students and their backgrounds. So we think that this helps provide a lot of exposure too to some of our students who may not have had the opportunity to participate in some of these. So this is a program that we're excited about, and this was something that we learned from as well. Last year, our Friday clubs were in the morning, and our teachers said, man, that's our kids really love it, but it gets them all fired up, and then we have to try to get into instructional mode after clubs, so they asked that we move it to the afternoon, and so we did that, and that's worked out really well too. So we do our Theme Friday clubs at the end of the day on Club Fridays, and so we get them all fired up, and then we send them home for the weekend. All right, let's see. Still me. All right, so classroom community building. This is another thing we really want to focus on here is having our kids feel a sense of community. They've been in most of our kids. We have 10 elementary schools that feed us, and many of our kids have been in that same elementary school for the last 6 years, K through 5. And this is their first time really going out to a new school where all of a sudden I don't know some of the kids in my classroom. And so we think we have some things in place that we think helps them with that transition, helps them learn how to socialize and how to meet new friends, how to work in groups of people that they may not necessarily always hang out with outside of class, but they have to learn to work together, which is a work skill that they'll need to have somewhere down the road. So we emphasize a lot of hands-on activities in our classes. We've got project-based learning that's an expectation of this program that's going to be spoken of here in just a minute. I'll skip down to the TED Ed portion of this, where we've got some teachers who have their students participate in this, where they help find out. You guys have probably heard TED Talks taking place. There's a TED Ed, which is geared more towards, obviously, towards school-age students who are able to kind of find their passion and find ways to talk to people about it and learn about it and share what it is that they're crazy about. Our team community building, and let me kind of point out as we progress through these slides here, we're going to go from kind of a smaller area and letting these kids see that there's a big world out there that they can have an impact on. So we're going to progress from classroom to the team, then we're going to talk about just a school-wide and then outside of our school. So you can kind of see that we're kind of showing them that, hey, doesn't just have to be about the small world that we live in. You can make an impact on some areas outside of the four walls around you. So community buildings, we've got our morning meetings as we listed earlier and talked about, our team celebrations at the end of each quarter, and then field trips. We have 2 per year. We have one that is an entire school-wide field trip where we all go and participate together, and then each team has their own field trip. It can be an on-site field study, or it would be a low-budget local trip that we ask that we keep that at an affordable option, and that it also have some relation to what's happening in their team and in their studies in their classroom, most likely with the PBLs that they have placed. There you can see a picture of the guy that I referenced earlier, the inventor. That's his product there. And so he just does a great job of talking to our kids about that whole process. School-wide community, got pancakes with the principal. So every month I pull together a group of our young leaders and talk to them about ways that we can improve at the school level. We have superhero days once a month where our students all students in the building participate in this. Our ugly holiday sweater day, which has gotten to be super popular. That's an all-school day event. Of course, our field day, which is really over a couple of days that we do towards the end of the year. And then we move to local community, kind of going out beyond the walls of our building, and we bring in Veterans Day. Veterans each year run a fantastic program there, reminding our kids of why we have our freedoms and hoping to build on our appreciation for that. We have a school-wide family picnic at the end of the year that our PTO sponsors, that lots of folks attend. concerts throughout the year. And our performers bring in some adults who participate as well, staff members. You can see some slides here of some of our wildlife folks who bring in, and this is also a former parent who continues to come back and help us out. Let's see, that's a picture from our family picnic. You can see Miss Seyfried right before she's taking the plunge in the dunking booth. She's got her swimmies on, thank goodness. So that's a fun activity there too. All right, and grit days. This is something that happens. We do have several. We have about 6 early release days each year, and on these days our students are released at 11:30, and so we have a half day basically, and then we have professional development the second half of the day, and then also some planning time for our teachers. So we have one team in particular, and this was our initial STEAM team that we went to. They have incorporated something called a grit day, and our other teams have begun to adopt this idea as well. And on these days, they don't go to their core content classes. They get together at first thing in the morning, and those teachers spend a lot of time. There's a lot of work involved in this, putting in either creating design challenges. We can see here balloon burst, or learning how to build and create a kite that has to be able to fly. And the way those might be set up a lot of times is they'll be given a budget, and they're put into teams of students from different levels, from different classes within that team. So they might be working with folks who they don't normally work with, which we think is a skill they need to have, and they would go and purchase the items that they need there from the team. The teachers would have those available, and either build the kite or build the hot air balloon that they need to fly that day, or parts that they might need to finish a design challenge. I had a special Olympics simulation where we had, again, a parent who works with the Special Olympics came in and put on just a fantastic morning where students were able to sort of go through a simulation of what it would be like to compete in the Special Olympics. From a challenge standpoint, and also brought some participants in the Special Olympics to help run those, and that was just a really fantastic day, and I think our kids learned a lot on that day outside of the classroom. And grit does not stand for anything. It's a mindset of where you're given some type of challenge, and you have to think your way through it, you have to communicate your way through it, and you have to get creative in finding your way through that challenge. All right. Move on to the next slide here, Ms. Seyfried.
All right, so kind of pulling things together that we've talked about so far, connecting those dots, we see a lot of the things we had to get really creative with our budget. So you'll see a lot of the things were low cost or even free to us. Sometimes we are able to convince some community members to make some donations to us. So really, you have to work to find the ways to make those things happen. Lots of engaging things going on within the building so that the kids are really getting that, like I said, that thinking outside the box, and getting them out of those seats and up and moving and really discussing and communicating with each other, which addresses those 4 C's. We have tons of collaboration going on, lots of critical thinking, and the creativity that goes on within the building is just, it's mind-blowing quite often. And of course, one of the initiatives that we have within the district, and I'm sure within a lot of districts, is really looking at Webb's depth of knowledge and the DOK levels that are used within the classroom. And really, by nature of using this kind of model within your building, and what we're about to talk about with the project-based learning, it automatically raises that level of DOK from your basic level of recall up into those higher levels of strategic and extended thinking. So just one example of what you might see with a PBL, and let me make sure you understand too that not all of we don't have school-wide PBLs, or at least not yet. We don't anyway, and we're really beginning to see the likes and the strengths of each of the teams in terms of the kinds of PBLs that they offer. Some go more of wildlife and nature and conservation, where we have others that go in other directions with their PBL. So it's fun to see those themes come out within our team. So I like that we've given them the liberty of being able to come up with those designs on their own. This particular team, they had, there's one of the themes in our ELA department is a theme of survival, and they had already some novel studies that they did with survival, and so they decided to start with that PBL, and it's really evolved over the last couple of years. And you can see just real briefly here, ELA in terms of their research, it started there, and this particular teacher gave each of the students basically a country and gave them a scenario where they had a plane crash or a boating accident or something, and basically they were deserted on that particular area. And so then they had to use their science skills and math skills, what they knew from social studies in the different places that they had been studying, to go through these different parts. So honestly, I could walk into the ELA classroom and feel like I was in a science classroom, because the kids were sitting in the floors designing, using what they had learned in their science classrooms in this situation about simple machines, and they were designing with graph paper. So they were pulling in that math concept, scale models of these simple machines that they could use to either catch water, fresh rainwater, or ways that they could trap animals so that they would have something to eat. So, of course, then that was pulling in the technology and the art component of the designing. They were using their Chromebooks and creating diaries electronically, somewhat like a portfolio. So within each one of those classrooms, they were able to just move from one piece of that survival unit to another. So it's really hard to tell which classroom you were in as they were working through that particular unit. Now, that's not always the case with a PBL. It doesn't, and I really would suggest to you that if you just decide to try these with your teachers, maybe start with a pair first rather than all 4 content areas, because it's a big task to try to incorporate all 4. Particularly math tends to be the one that's the most difficult for the teachers to incorporate into these units. But I find that as we began trying these units out, ELA and social studies would often pair up with one another, and science and social studies would pair up with one another. And that might be the beginning, and then the next time they tried a unit, they would add on a particular subject area as the teachers got more comfortable. I think part of it really was that the teachers needed to become comfortable with letting go that sometimes their standards were being taught in somebody else's classroom, and making sure that they had that buy-in from each other and that faith in each other that what was happening within each other's classrooms. Plus, like I say, it's a little bit difficult to think about it in terms of that project versus, maybe the cut and dry teach a lesson kind of concept. Now we do have, with our related arts department, we have a STEM class, and this is one of our semester courses, and it goes in conjunction with a semester course of art. So our students that don't take a year-long music of chorus, band, or strings, they can take the STEM semester and the art semester. And in Mr. Oliver's class, this is a very student-driven class. I think a lot of times they may come in with some questions, and while I know that he has design challenges and particular units of study that he's already preset for his semester, I think he also has that liberty with the students that if they have a question or have a curiosity about something, that they're able to do that kind of investigation within his class as well. You see some examples here in this class. They were building roller coasters and talking about a lot of science in that with the scale model and velocity of I think they were trying to roll a marble through it once they had it built. And we have Connects, the top right corner. They were building some models with that. And then you can see in the bottom picture here, where they were creating some robotics that actually connected to a computer program that they had on their Chromebooks. And so they were designing ways to make that tracks that those robots could move through. So very hands-on in that classroom. Everybody's moving all the time.
Let me add something in there too. You may have mentioned something about the 3D printers being in place, but we do have 3D printers in there that we've been able to get over the last couple of years. And we did it. We in the past have had students who've used that to make prosthetic hands that we would send off to folks around the world. And again, kind of bringing back the idea that you can make an impact outside of these 4 walls. This is a class that kids big time enjoy.
And you've heard us mention throughout the presentation about the fact that we have such a large amount of technology, and we're actually a one-to-one device in our school with Chromebooks. That's the first year kids coming out of elementary school. When they come to 6th grade, they have the option of being issued one of the Chromebooks, or they can also bring their own device, but we don't have too many that do that. Most have the Chromebook. And then they use Chromebooks through 7th and 8th grade as well before they get into high school. But having that ability with the one-to-one device has really allowed us to change really how the classroom looks. We use Google Classroom. The kids are heavily involved in submitting things to their teachers through the Google Drive with Google Documents and spreadsheets. My son's actually here this year, and I very seldom see him with actual paperwork. He's very often submitting his assignments to his teachers online, which is really cool to watch that happening. And we're very fortunate to have on site our own digital integration specialist. You can see him in the picture, that larger picture there, working with a set of students, where he's able to go in to classrooms and he can co-teach with those teachers, or he may go in and actually teach a lesson for the particular classes, depending on what the subject area is. But he'll also work with our teachers through professional development and teach them how to use programs or help them do research. He's forever sending out things, new things that he finds that the teachers can incorporate into their lessons. So a nice tool to have in the classroom.
And that's a district-funded position, so we're just really fortunate to have him.
Right, and that just continues to reiterate the point that we have. As a matter of fact, it's got the Google Expeditions there, that it's we just used those the other day and went through a virtual reality tour of a particular, I think we were doing pollination that day, and those kids were very much into that lesson versus just listening to a lecture in their science classroom. And it would go without saying, you always have to have a testimony from a student to talk about how much they enjoy having technology in the classroom. And of course, it's not a substitute for a good teacher in the classroom. It's not a substitute for hands-on with science labs and other things that can happen within the classroom. But I think that we do a good job of balancing what we do in our technological world along with lots of the other experiences that our kids have.
All right. So that brings us really to our final slide here with just some parting questions that we might throw out for you to think about if you are considering or you are in the midst of creating some type of program at your school. And what we found to be helpful for us were finding some things that were already in place, whether it was groups of teachers that already worked really well together, or certain resources that we already had in place in our school. For example, we were just fortunate to have a super strong performing arts program. All of our instructors in those areas are just super dynamic, and so that was helpful to us to be able to go to them and get their support and get them committed to the cause. Funding is always an issue, and as we've gone through this, you've seen honestly most of the things that we've talked about are pretty low cost. It doesn't cost us anything to have a parent come in on a Friday morning and talk about their work as a local judge or whatever it is that they're talking about. So that's been beneficial to us. I mean, there's some cost when you talk about our clubs. Our PTO's been helpful in providing some funding for that, but not much. That has not been a big stumbling block for us, and really by design we've tried to think about things that we can do and cheaper, but still be sure that we provide our kids with a high quality program here in exposing them to STEAM. What PD will teachers need and or want? Again, this is something that we didn't have to spend tons of money on. We've done a book study. We've done some, and we've done that in ways where teachers were able to kind of become experts in certain areas and then share within our team. We do a lot of collaboration here. That's one benefit to being a one-grade school is all of the teachers here teach the same standards. So you go into a science department meeting, for example, and you've got 10 sixth-grade science teachers, and they're able to really coach each other up on what works and doesn't work. So a lot of internal PD taking place, as well as some participation in some conferences here and there, and our district's been kind enough to send us to a few of those as well. And then also think about the current climate with your faculty. How open or receptive are they to changes that you might need to make? Most of our folks were pretty open to changes, but we had to take some people, as I mentioned at the very beginning, out of their comfort zones and either move them to new teams or even new content areas. And that was a struggle, but thankfully we've got folks who were on board with making sure that this was successful. So here's some contact information for both myself and Ms. Seyfried. If you're interested in contacting either one of us, please don't hesitate to do so. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have or send you resources, any documents that you'd like to get your hands on. We'd be glad to do that. We also have listed here in the chat box of your screen, there is a link to a video that you can watch at your leisure. And this is a video that really outlines our program and give you some nice visuals on what's happening in the classrooms, some of the things that the kids are enjoying, and I think it's one that you guys would enjoy as well. So thanks for spending some time with us, and again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'll be glad to help you in any way. Good luck with any programs that you're trying to put in place in the rest of your school year.